You hear the term quite often, positive vibes. Dude, you're bringing down my vibe. Vibes this, vibe that. Good vibes. And a lot of people that are involved in the sort of, I guess you would say, quasi pseudo-intellectual culture sort of have hijacked that term in order to mean something that it really doesn't. And what I mean by that is most people on the planet, they look into whatever group fits what they tend to believe. Whether that is being a redneck, being a fake gangster, being a quote-unquote nerd who's really a geek. I talked about this in a previous video. But they're obsessed with Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. You have that other group. They are the people that go to Hot Topic, the people that go to the stores where they sell the marijuana stuff. They listen to Bob Marley. Even though Bob Marley talks about some deep shit, if you really are astute enough to understand what he's trying to say. But most people that are just trendy, that just go along with what their group wants, who are fitting into their tribalistic instincts, they just go with whatever their group wants. And so something you see a lot is when you go to those stores, Hot Topic, places like that, is you see shirts that say positive vibes. And they've hijacked that term. Now, if you really want to break it down into what it really means, it has a scientific connotation. But in order to understand that, you must begin with the universe itself. The universe is so vast and complex. But if you want to understand it on simplistic terms, just understand that everything is composed of something smaller. So for instance, think about the human body. What makes up the human body in its most simplistic, elementary form? That is matter. Well, what makes up matter? Atoms. What make up atoms? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Well, what make up protons, neutrons, and electrons? And that is quarks. A quark is a fundamental particle which possesses both electrical charge and strong charge. They combine in groups of 2 or 3 to form composite objects, such as protons and neutrons. Both are made up of 3 quarks. Quarks come in 6 different species, each of which has a unique mass. The 2 lightest are called up and down quarks, and they combine to form protons and neutrons. And what's crazy is those are the lightest ones. Those are the only 2 that are actually found in nature. The heavier ones, they've only been observed in particle accelerators. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with that, those are machines that use electromagnetic fields, and they propel charges to the particles at super high speeds. And they do that because they want to have the energies inside of them that create beams. And the reason they do this is for research in particle physics. And that's the only time they exist. So there's 6 different types, and only 2, up and down, which are the lightest, actually exist in nature. Now, what does this have to do with vibration? Well, what you got to realize is every particle is actually a field. The universe is full of fields, and what we think of as particles are just applications of energy to a particle, object, or physical stream. So the particles that we see, the quarks, they're just waves in an ocean, for instance. An electron, for example, is just an energy stream of an electronic field. The energy and excitation of one field transfers to others as they vibrate against each other, making it seem like new types of particles are appearing. Ultimately, all matter is just vibrations of various underlying fields. All things in our universe are constantly in motion, vibrating. Even objects that appear to be stationary are in fact vibrating at various frequencies. An interesting phenomenon occurs when different vibrating things come into proximity. They will often start after a little time to vibrate together at the same frequency. This is described today as the phenomenon of spontaneous self-organization. Fireflies of certain species start flashing their little fires in sync in large gatherings of fireflies. Large-scale neuron firing can occur in human brains at specific frequencies. Lasers are produced when photons of the same power and frequency are emitted together. The moon's rotation is exactly synced with its orbit around the Earth, such that we always see the same face. So basically, matter is built out of particles. Those particles are built out of smaller particles, and those smaller particles are actually from magnetic fields. And they're just energy from those magnetic fields. So vibration is simply an energy stream. And that's all matter is. Matter is energy. That is why if you're around an individual that is negative, that is down all the time, that views the world through the lens of a negative light, you yourself will have a lower vibration. Same thing if you're around someone who's positive. If you listen to Tony Robbins, you watch Bob Ross, you listen to Fred Rogers, people like that, they increase your vibration because they're positive. They talk about building things, creating things, doing things. Speaking of which, there are certain activities that lower your vibration and increase your vibration. Exercise, water. Think about it, after you swim, after you take a shower, after you are in a body of water, you have more dopamine. And that's because water increases vibration. Art, anytime you do, and art isn't simply the form people think, simply individuals painting on a canvas. Art can be a variety of things. It can be music, it can be agriculture, growing your food, it can be writing. Art is just simply a huge field. But anytime you do something creative, whether you're building, writing, doing, you're going to increase your dopamine. Being around individuals who are positive themselves. Well, what are some activities that decrease dopamine? Well, alcohol in the beginning increases dopamine really fast. But the next day after you drink, even if you're not hungover, you have a lower vibration. Because your body is not naturally supposed to consume that alcohol. So it goes all into your bladder instead of being digested. And then you the next day still have remnants of that alcohol. Of course, we already went over this, but being around toxic people. Constantly watching the news all the time and being obsessed with, like, these liberals that are so obsessed on Trump's dick all the time, they have low vibration because that's all they worry about. Focusing on what others have and not what you have. Always thinking that someone is better than you. Now, bettering yourself and wanting to improve is fine. That's understandable. But wanting to take something from others is different than wanting an opportunity to build yourself to that same level. And so the term positive vibes is scientific. But the individuals who have given in to the social engineering, kind of like, oh yeah, he's the chill guy. He's the guy that smokes pot. He's the guy that is really into spirituality. He's the guy that is into tree hugging and all that other stuff. They are the ones that have hijacked that term. Now, it's okay if you want to fit into one of those groups. We live in the freest society in history. I don't object to that. You do what makes you happy. But don't tell me that you're a free thinker, that you do not fit the mold. Most people that go out of their way to tell you that they don't fit the mold actually fit some sort of mold. Whether they're the nerd, quote unquote, the jock, whether they are the positive vibes guy, or the guy that has some bullshit name like knowledge, wisdom, hope, and they have all the secret powers of the universe, and so on and so forth. But yeah, next time you hear that word positive vibes, just remember, it's simple. Matter is created by particles. Particles are composed by magnetic fields, and those magnetic fields are energy, like a physical stream, like waves in an ocean.